It's the best and worst of the decade with Ron and Fez. The Sports Edition.
Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise, playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing, we will rock you.
Hey everybody, it is the Ron and Fez Show. Merry Christmas to you, or as Dave and his family like to say, Happy Holidays. Because, of course, Dave shares everything with a Jewish family.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Is the oil still burning?
Yeah, but I think that's because I haven't fixed the heater in a while.
All right, we've been doing the best of the decade. That is the best moments in film, TV, and today, of course, is sports. Davey Mack, for a sports thing, what are the best of the team moments, the best team moments in sports?
Well, there's a lot of moments that went down in sports, but I have to believe, and not just as a homer, but in a team moment, the Giants-Patriots Super Bowl, because of just the enormity that were the undefeated 18-0 New England Patriots. When Eli Manning hits Plaxico Burress into the end zone, way before the Plaxico Burress gunshot stuff, you're scratching your head, you're shouting, or if you're not a Giants fan, you're saying, how the hell did this happen? Because quite frankly, the team wasn't that great this year. They squeaked into the playoff. People forget. Won 3 games on the road. It culminated into 1 pass.
And they beat the team that would have been considered the best team, not of the decade, but all time.
Absolutely.
The Patriots win that game. Or if the miracle moment doesn't happen with Eli Manning, you are telling your grandkids, I saw the greatest team that ever played. Now it's almost hard to remember that.
Yeah.
You know, because now it's like dropped off any list. But there's no way that they would have went undefeated, and also considering the year that Brady and Moss both have, without calling them.
Record-breaking years. I mean, for Tom Brady to get 51 touchdowns in a single season, and this is a few years after, Peyton Manning had broken Marino's record. And we're thinking, okay, it took this long for someone to break Marino's record. Forget it. It's not going to happen. And Brady, a few years later with Moss, it was unbelievable. And in that moment, when Eli hits Burress and Eli gives a fist pump, they cut away to Peyton clapping in the press box. I have that DVR'd, and I have to admit, I get sentimental. Not just the Eli hitting him, but Peyton fist pumping, being that excited for his little brother. It broke down, just regular guys rooting for each other in sports. It became like a family thing. It was unbelievably emotional.
Fezzi, what's the best team moment for you of this decade?
Best team moment for me was Super Bowl 37, Bucks against the Raiders. The moment when John Lynch, the safety for the Buccaneers, called the play that the offense was lining up with against the Raiders. He called it, let everyone on the field know about it, and then bragged about it on the sideline because they ran it just like he knew it.
Now, I know the Bucks are your all-time favorite team.
Right.
But this, more or less, is going to be a forgotten Super Bowl. And it already has been in this decade. There's something about, both the Bucks and Raiders went into the dumpsters after that season. And I think that if you would take a step back, Fezzi, you're going to see that it's just one of those Super Bowls that is not at least going to be in the top half.
No, also I think the problem is that it's between Patriots Super Bowls, great ones too.
Right.
The one that they beat the Rams, and then the one where they beat the Seahawks, which were exciting as hell games. It's between those two.
And fortunately or unfortunately, even with the loss against the Giants, that is the football team of this decade, is the Patriots.
Yeah.
You don't get around it. They went 3-1 in their Super Bowls instead of 4-0. But yeah, you're kind of now looking at one of those Washington Redskins Super Bowl wins that no one kind of remembers. Now, for you, Fezzi, is it all just about being a homer for that team?
I think, I don't know, obviously was never more excited about a Super Bowl.
Even the one that you watched, the one that we're talking about that we all watched together?
I mean, that was exciting, but my heart was stopping with the Tampa Bay dominated Oakland, but at no point did I feel comfortable until it was absolutely over.
Right, but are these personal memories, or are we just trying to take a step back and judge?
No, I think it was a legitimately great moment.
Not sure.
It wasn't even a great Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm not. I would have to disagree. If we really do it like the movie.
I'm going to give you this. For me, the best of all the team moments, and of course the team that I grew up loving, Philadelphia Phillies, they won a World Series. Not picking it. Not picking it as my own.
Well, it's hard to,
Not picking the year they lost. I'm picking the thing that impacted baseball the most, the fans the most, and that is when you go out and do the impossible, you're down by 3, and you come back and win 4 against the New York Yankees. Bo Sox have that famous team moment of the decade. Phenomenal comeback. Nobody believed, even when they won 3 in a row. When they won 3 in a row, you're still like, they cannot pull this off.
Yeah,
it's too big for them.
As a Yankee fan, I didn't think that there's any way they would win Game 7. And when Mr. Johnny Damon hit the grand slam, I was like, oh my God.
That's why I think this Giants team in football is going to stay famous forever, because they beat Goliath.
Right.
They beat the undefeated team with the great quarterback, the great receiver. And when you have that kind of win is when everybody sits around and agrees.
It's interesting that it was New York and Boston, but the roles were reversed.
Absolutely.
In the scenarios. That's an interesting way. But with the Yankees, you know, Mariano gives up a little home run to Ortiz, and you're like, okay, they're down 3-1. Big deal. You know, and then things happen. Then in Game 5, the guy, you know, steals a base, a pinch runner steals a base, and then all of a sudden they win that game. And then they win 2 games in Yankee Stadium, which you're not supposed to do. Not win 2 games. You might win 1 game, but to win Games 6 and 7? I mean, just to beat the Yankees down 3-2 would have been something else.
Right. It was phenomenal. And it was great for baseball. Even though it was tough if you're a New York fan, suddenly now Chicago was going, what about ours? This can happen.
Yeah.
You can believe. And then every other team out there is thinking, it can happen for us, too.
Yeah, no other thing in sports has ever brought me down to earth, like as a Yankee fan, than that thing. And this is after 2001, where the Yankees lost the World Series. It was a great World Series. And even 2003, when the Yankees lost another World Series to the Florida Marlins, I was still like, well, the Yankees will always win. They'll always beat the Red Sox. I still had that feeling of invincibility. Like I said, even after losing 2 World Series, when the Red Sox came back, my plan's never been the same.
Over for you.
My plan, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying as a Yankee fan, for the first time in my life, now I get nervous. I was nervous all throughout, you know, with the Phillips, I was nervous. With the Red Sox, I get nervous now. It took the Red Sox coming from 3-0 to now make Yankee fans nervous. Now Yankee fans, when they watch games, are as nervous as everyone else.
Changed baseball.
Changed the way, as a Yankee fan, you look at the sport of baseball. You don't have the game in your back pocket, period.
Let's go over to Hicks. Hicks, what was your big team moment?
I picked the same one as you did, and I'm a Yankees fan. I picked the Red Sox coming back from 3 down. It's never been done before.
Not even close.
It was mind-blowing. It sucked. The Yankees lost, but just to see them come back from 3 down.
And to see what happened to that town, you know. And I always bring this up to Fez with his Buckstown of what the parade was like in Tampa compared to what that parade was like in Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, those people, there's something about the people of the Northeast, and I'm going to reach all the way out and give it to Chicago and put them for the Midwest part of this as part of what I'm talking. I'm talking about the old school leagues, the old school teams that really love their teams. I don't think you get that all around the country. Not the same kind of love that you have.
Well, just a matter of speaking, Northeastern teams tend to have been in their leagues for a long, long time.
And I'll throw the Midwest in for that. You throw in a Cleveland, you throw in Chicago,
and Detroit,
St. Louis, Detroit.
You know, and Detroit's emerged as a good sports city with the Pistons this decade.
But the South and the West are still college football places.
Right.
A lot more than they're into professional sports.
Yes. Yes, and there's some pockets where they're into college basketball, too, like at Kentucky.
Right.
Because they have Kentucky and Louisville and all that kind of thing.
And I lived in Tampa before, and when those people aren't winning football games, they just go sailing. They don't live and die with their team. They don't have to. They can get a tan.
I don't think they noticed about the Devil Rays going to the World Series.
Then why did you pick that as your great sports team moment, Fez?
Because I thought that was a really... I mean, I think they love the football team. They don't like the baseball team.
Even with the football team. They had 100,000 people show up at their parade.
That's not good.
How can that even be?
I mean, really, the state of Florida should have been there. I mean, I know they have Miami and Jacksonville, but you would think way more than 100,000 people.
Well, Miami has the bigger fan base because they were there first.
Right.
So there's even people in the Tampa Bay area that still love the Dolphins because they can't give it up because that's the team they grew up with.
Yeah, I get that. And they probably, even the Hurricanes probably rival the Bucks. If you think about it.
Even bigger than the Hurricane are the Gators and the Knowles. They're bigger than the Hurricanes down there.
Jesus.
Everybody really divides between those two teams. And, yeah, I agree. They will back their college football a lot. But even Florida, I don't think, is as big as Alabama and Texas and Nebraska and even out to USC and shit like that. Those people love their college football so much that they're almost retarded with it. Worst. What's the worst of the decade for sports?
Oh, God. There was a lot, but just a bad sports moment was the Ron Artest situation, where he went into the stands and basically fucked people up for a while. I mean, that was a difficult situation to watch as a sports fan.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things where you think to yourself, should I even take my kids to a game?
You know
what I mean?
Was.
Because, and you do have to think, as your kids are getting bigger, Dave, you really do have to think to yourself, do I want to take my children to a game or just let them watch on TV?
And let me just be clear, it was embarrassing for everybody. Yes, it was embarrassing for Artest, but the guy threw a soda or a can of
like
beer.
Animals.
Artest was on the court, remember, lying on the scorer's table. And someone threw, so everyone looked like, it just looked insanity. It looked like it was ECW. And this isn't, I put sports on a very high pedestal. I didn't care for that.
Fezzi, what's the low moment in sports in the decade?
I thought one of the low moments. I'll go.
The low moment.
Yeah, I'll go back to Red Sox Yankees when it was Manny throwing down Don Zimmer by his big pumpkin head. To put your hands on that old man who's.
What year are we talking there?
That was the year before. That was 2003. That was the year before the comeback, which was 2004. Mm-hmm. So that was actually a different year, and that was, that wasn't good.
Yeah, that was a rough spot. But your point is an old guy got thrown down?
Yeah, the fact that he put his hands on an old man's head and threw him down on the ground.
Now,
and it's Don Zimmer, and I think people like Don Zimmer.
Yeah.
Whether they're a Yankees fan or not.
But at
that point,
people do say that Zimmer was going out to punch Pedro. So
he didn't belong out there. But at the same time, you are correct that it always looks terrible when an old man gets thrown down. I mean, there's no time that you could even sit there and go, oh, it was so funny when the old man got knocked down by the younger guy.
I just thought it was such an ugly, ugly moment. Very worst in sports.
What about for you, Hicks?
Oh, the steroids fucking thing's coming up. It permeated the entire decade for baseball, and it was just something that wouldn't go away and distracted people from the actual sport.
I would actually went with that, too, particularly the stuff of McGuire taking the fifth and getting beat up at Congress.
I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about the future.
And what's the future?
It was a very weird, Kaiser Soze thing to say.
And by the way, have you seen it now that we're living in the future? What has he done? Has he done a goddamn thing but hide still?
He just got a job as the Cardinals batting coach.
I can't wait to yell shit at him.
He's as thin as a rail right now.
Oh, is he really?
He looks like Jimmy Hart with red hair.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, get him a megaphone.
He's tiny. That was ugly, and it did suck for baseball, and it's still going on. Manny was suspended last year.
As bad as the steroids or even the chaotic fighting shit that kind of makes you embarrassed about being a fan sometimes. I think the lowest moment is when they busted that NBA ref out of Philly who was, screwing up the games.
Right.
On so many levels. Number one, it just proves, again, that there's nothing pure about sports, that it's always going to come back to money and drugs and all the outside stuff, that you really don't have this 1920s viewpoint. But then even worse is, how can you ever bet a game and feel comfortable knowing even one ref has done that?
Right, yeah. And it's scary the way the NBA has tried to sweep this under the carpet, and it's a major
They've
thing.
actually done a great job of sweeping it under the carpet.
Yeah, but at the same time, there are people who remember Tim Donaghy and know that if this guy's doing it, how many other refs are doing it? And apparently all he was doing was just talking to his fellow refs,
but
getting info.
Let's even move over to baseball. How many times you sit there and think, if you get the close second strike fucking call, the game's over, right? That could go either way, judgment call. Every time a flag comes out at football, you think to yourself, I just saw that play and they didn't call it 2 plays before.
Right.
For every holding call, every pass interference call, they don't make those same calls. It's easy enough to call that at crucial times.
Well, remember the baseball umpiring this year in the playoffs. The first 2 rounds of the baseball playoffs, there was a terrible call every night.
Yeah.
Remember the Yankees-Twins series? Every single game, the Twins were getting screwed. And it makes people believe in Minnesota, hey, maybe the baseball wants the Yankees back on top. And they might have a point.
And you'll get that a lot of times. They'll go, no, they're going to go an extra game because they want to win this one back in New York. It'll do better for the ratings. Oh, no, they want L.A. to play New York. Perfect for the ratings. Everybody plays so much into the ratings. And everyone, I think, and I'm going to blame this on Vince McMahon, but everybody is comfortable with the fact that they will watch something that if it looks like sports, they'll just call it a sport. They'll buy into it,
Yeah.
So I don't know if people wouldn't be overly upset if they knew there was cheating, but for some reason to, let Brett Favre get back in the Super Bowl and win his last game. Because if something like that happens, America will be ecstatic. They love it. They're like, this is the greatest Super Bowl ever. And if they have to be tricked into that, I don't think they would mind that much.
I don't. I mean, I watched HBO Real Sports, and that guy Donaghy said that the NBA would give memos saying, you know what, Kobe Bryant hasn't gotten enough calls. They weren't instructing the refs to call more calls on Kobe, but simply saying be sensitive. But guess what happened? They started calling fouls every time Kobe touched the ball.
Right, it's like a policeman and a ticket quota.
Well, there is no reason to think that those guys aren't human and aren't going to be caught up with the thrill of the game, too. And if you're thinking to yourself, do I want to call a traveling thing on Kobe, or let him stuff the ball and let the fucking place go crazy? I think that they're just humans and they have a sense of the drama themselves. Now, add money to that and we're fucked. We are fucked.
Why do anyone gamble on sports?
It's the most thrilling thing in the world. I don't care what anybody says. You could be the biggest football fan in the world. You could be the biggest Yankees fan. Add $1,000 of your money that you're either going to lose or get at the end of that, and your excitement level has now just ratcheted it up.
I play Mega Millions twice a week. I even get excited for that. That's just a lottery.
You're not a sports gambler at all?
No, I never have been, because I don't like to do anything that impairs my me watching sports. That's why I didn't play. I've never played fantasy until this year, and I shouldn't have. I got killed.
I was looking at Mafia Life Chris's Twitter one day, and he's like, "I got 120 on on the Giants. I'm like, yeah, I know you're a big sports gambler, but all you do is bet your local team. Week in, week out. When I was a kid growing up, you never... one bet that you wanted to make in my neighborhood was against Notre Dame. Because the fucking spread would be so out of whack with the real spread. Because it's just Catholic guys who are going out on a Saturday going like this. Give me 2 bills down on Notre Dame. We're going all the way. They would never even look at the fucking who they were playing or what the line was.
Right. That's why I don't like to do any of the gambling type deal.
You would never walk into a bar and see one of these micks betting against the fucking team.
Give me 2 bills on Purdue. What? What the fuck are you talking about?
Wrapping up the end of the year, best and worst of the decade. Fez's favorite, of course, so far was his home team, and his least favorite was a guy who lives in Tampa Bay being thrown down on the ground.
Are we surprised he's wearing a Rondé Barber jersey as he sits in here?
That's the only name left in Tampa.
Right.
Fezzy, everyone's gone now, right?
Right, yeah, everybody except Rondé. Yep.
And backed up by nobody. They haven't gotten any real players to fill in.
No. It's been the complaint about Gruden was that when things needed to be fixed, it was patchwork, and the patchwork continues.
I wish they would have left it there for him to deal with.
I don't know.
Here's the big complaint about Gruden. He won you a Super Bowl.
And got you into the playoffs with teams that weren't necessarily that great.
Never have had a quarterback.
Yeah. Remember that one?
No.
Didn't Chris Sims win a playoff game one year?
No.
No.
Nope.
He went one year, though, right?
He went, but he didn't win. And, in fact, I think that year they really got clobbered. I'm trying to remember who it was.
It's hard to believe Chris Sims even played. All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to be talking about individual achievement, the best and the worst of sports for the decade. Ron and Fez Show. Hey, it's the Ron and Fez Show. It's the best and the worst of the decade. By the way, Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. Best and the worst of the decade. Today, on Christmas Day, we're working on sports. As soon as we're done with this hour, though, we've got a Christmas special coming up with Sleeves. Sleeves Christmas special on next. We were going over the best moments of sports today. Ron, Fez, Chris Stanley, Eastside Dave McDonald. Chris Stanley, if you could only pick one team in this decade, who would the team of the decade be?
It's going to have to be the Patriots for winning 3 in 10 years.
I find it hard to believe that we've got anybody we could even compare with the Patriots.
We do. The Los Angeles Lakers started the decade off with a three-peat, then went to an NBA Finals with Shaq and Kobe, went to another NBA Finals with only Kobe, and then went back last year with only Kobe and won 4 titles and 6 appearances.
What was their first? What was their first year?
2000 was their first year.
2000 was first year.
2001 was second. 2002 was their third of their three-peat.
So
with Shaq and Kobe.
4 times they show up, 4 times or 5 times they show up.
6 times they show up. 4 times they win. So 4 times with Shaq and Kobe, they won 3. Twice with only Kobe, and good players, Lamar Odom, and they won 1.
Fez Watley, you got a different team, or do you want to pick between those two?
Well, I mean, the one thing I would throw out is the University of Southern California Trojans in football. 2 national championships and 2 Heisman Awards.
Yeah, I don't think that people are going to look back on that era and compare it with the same way that you've compared to some other college teams have done to a decade, though. Do you?
I think it's pretty dominant.
I think if they had gotten that championship against Texas, the one that they lost,
we always say that you have to win at least 3 to be considered your fucking time.
Right, and I think that was the key. If they had beaten, I agree, Fez, if they beat Vince Young, but they didn't.
Let's look at it. When the Dolphins in the 70s won 2 Super Bowls and even went undefeated, still not considered the team of the 70s. Not even in pro football, let alone the teams itself.
Right, yeah. They needed that. They needed that win over Vince Young.
All right, so if we go back over this now, and from what Hicks has said and what Dave has said, who are you going to give it to, Fez?
And then I will give it to the New England Patriots.
What is your reasoning?
Just how tough a football season is to be able to pull that off. And they did it with... Well, the first time they won it, they did it without their Kobe Bryant. Drew Bledsoe had gotten hurt and sat on the sidelines. Tom Brady came in, became a superstar, but he was an unknown quantity.
Well, he was Tom Brady.
Yeah, he was Tom Brady. That's only an amazing story when the guy doesn't go on to become Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Like, then you're the nobody kid winning this thing. But the reality of it was, he was better than Bledsoe. We just didn't know it at the time. He's not the Kobe Bryant of that team. Tom Brady is the Kobe Bryant of that team.
Tom Brady is beyond. He's the Jordan of that Patriots team. And it's like saying, we were surprised that Jeter came on in 96 and did so well, but then we realized he's
in hindsight, he is Jeter.
Yeah.
You just didn't know it at the time. All right. It's 6 times going to the NBA versus 4 times for the NFL. And 4 titles.
The one said, subtraction I would take off of Kobe is that they did lose twice. And I guess you could say, that's a small strike against them. But, winning 4 in a decade and 1 without Shaq is pretty impressive.
Well, let's face it. As far as basketball goes, they are the team of the decade.
Definitely.
Period.
Well, it's believe it or not, it's a lot closer. Everyone forgets that the Spurs won 3 titles in the 2000s, and they're perfect 3 for 3. But they don't have, Tim Duncan is one of the greatest centers of all time, but he's not.
It's dull.
He's not as sexy as Kobe.
No kids are out there looking for the Tim Duncan stuff.
No one wears the Tim Duncan jersey, even though he plays brilliant fundamental basketball.
Hicks, any reason that you want to fight for the Pats?
Well, yeah, because they're the team. It's Fez made the obvious points before that it's much harder to do this.
But what if the Pats don't win?
Yeah. Who says it's harder to win a Super Bowl than it is any other championship?
Because it's a shorter season, they get more fucked up than NBA.
Well, there's a reason to win it. There goes to show you, with a couple of lucky breaks, you can win it. Just like we pointed out the Giants here. They only got hot for a short period of time. If I was going back to your Buccaneers, Fezzi, those playoffs, they had a better quarterback than at any time during their decade. Or maybe just those 3 games. So you can get very hot for a short time in football and win it all. And you can't do that in baseball, and you can't do that in basketball.
Ask Patrick Ewing or Charles Barkley if winning a Super Bowl is easier than winning an NBA Finals. These guys are in the top 5 of their respective positions, and they couldn't get to an NBA Finals. 82 games is a lot.
And the whole fact of, it's easier to get hurt, and it's also easier for your opponents to get hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also easier for somebody else out there not to be able to play out the season.
And that the NFL, all right, so that the NFL maybe seems more like a crapshoot, I think that makes it harder. Because it's a crapshoot. You don't know what's going to happen. And whoever can get hot gets hot. And they get the fucking win.
Mm-hmm. So what's your point?
And that's why. There's too much. I think there's a lot more chance.
Can I tell you something? I know that you sat there and you're helping Mooch win our fantasy season.
Well, that's fucking crazy. I never helped that scumbag.
And Dave knows it, and Fez knows it. You went and gave him your best player.
Fuck that. My best player is fucking Brett Favre. Or actually, Miles Austin's my best player at this point.
The 2 of them have been commiserating. I can't have it.
I also think that Mooch is in on it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Not at all.
But I expected out of those other besters, I never expected out of you, Hicks.
Never helped that scumbag.
Then get your player back.
I will somehow.
Make sure you have him back by tomorrow. Let me know.
I stayed pat with my team. I stayed loyal to my fantasy players. Thank you.
Everybody knows that you're the real deal.
Oh, except for I had to bench Chad Palmer and put in his brother 1 week. Just coincided that I was playing Ron Bennington.
All right, so we got to make this choice right now.
I'm going to say the Lakers because they started the decade with the win, and they're going to end the decade. If the Patriots somehow win the Super Bowl, which I don't think is a possibility,
you'll give it to them.
Then I'll give it to them.
Fuzzy?
I'm sticking with the Patriots.
Based on that, you don't watch any other sports besides football?
There's a lot of it there. I know how free agency tears up football.
Your chance to flip.
I'm still with the Patriots.
I'm going to make the deciding vote here. It's 6 versus 4 and 4 versus 3. What can't you understand about these numbers?
Math.
That is just math. If the Patriots wanted this thing, they needed to win that game against the Giants.
Yeah, had they done that?
Had they done that, we're not even having a fucking discussion.
No.
There's no discussion. Not only are they the team of this decade, they're the best team all time. And guess what? If by the time we get to the end of this thing, if we have an undefeated team at the end of this year, how are they not the team of the decade? If the Colts end up running this thing and winning it again, how are they not the team of the decade?
It's going to be a legit argument for the Colts to be the team of the decade with a second championship and undefeated. They'll have a legit argument there. And keep in mind, like I said, back to the Lakers, though, Shaq and Kobe are two immortal players, but then the team had a totally different roster, except for Derek Fisher. So the Lakers are the team of the decade.
Well, you set up a very good point here. If we were looking at the best athletes of the decade, Kobe's on your short list.
Kobe has to be there, and I'm a LeBron guy, but he hasn't gotten it done this decade. This upcoming decade, the teams, if that's what we're calling it, should be LeBron's.
Let me tell you the difference there. Kobe reminds me of Jordan where he has to win. I don't see LeBron all that upset when he doesn't win.
Well, he's still young, and I think with each year that he doesn't win...
Hasn't sank in yet?
Yeah, with each year that he doesn't win, he's going to get...
Well, I don't think he's winning this year. I don't think he's going to win this year with Shaq.
They've been off to a very sluggish start. I agree, and the Celtics look like the Celtics from 2 years ago.
A lot of talk he'll come to New York City, will he?
I think if the Cavs win, he will come. If the Cavs don't win, he will stay. Because the Knicks are so terrible, and I do think he wants that championship. But he won't win in New York for another 5 years. So if he wants to be
unless there's also a little talk about a certain center from Orlando coming to the Knicks.
But I don't know if the Knicks have that kind of money. NBA's got a salary cap. And it's like, they're going to have to pay LeBron so much money. I'm not sure if they're just going to have enough to give Dwight Howard any money.
By the way, the salary cap to me is the stupidest thing in the world. I just can't get into it. All right, so Fez Whatley, who is the sportsman of the decade for you?
It is the swimmer Michael Phelps, winning 8 gold medals at the 2008 Games, breaking that record, and and pretty dominant style as well.
Okay, but here's my only beef with that. Is there any country in the world where their sport is swimming? You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Why would you, in a world of in a world of professional sports, right? Mm-hmm. If you happen to be a great athlete, young kid, and you're a great athlete, why would you focus on something that is an amateur sport? So in this country, our best athletes play football, they play basketball, they play. I'll still throw baseball in there because there's plenty of Americans who do. They box. At what point do you ever say the best athlete is swimming? So is this guy even competing against the best athletes in every thing out there? My other beef is this. We only pay attention once every 4 years with that. Once every 4 years. Oh, who's the greatest swimmer in the world? 10 months before this, you didn't even know who that kid was.
No, I didn't know.
You had no idea who he was. But with these other athletes whose names are going to come up here, we have known them all for 10 years. This kid we knew for 3 weeks. Now, during those weeks, Fezzi, I watched everything that he did.
Right.
I loved it. I thought it was great. But is that the same exact thing? I'd put up that with best moments in sports.
That would have been a good moment.
Yeah.
That was perfect, Fez. You should. If you.
Well, he had his hometown Bucks. He had to go to.
Get rid of them.
He had his John Lynch moment.
That's a sports moment. That really is. Especially that one with the
where he just got it. It was like
zero.
It was like the one before the last one.
Yeah.
We were all thrilled. We were jumping up and down.
That was awesome.
But you never thought of swimming before or since that Olympics.
No.
And it'll take a couple years. Again, there's probably here's the greatest. Who's the number 2 swimmer, Fez, in the world today? Who's the number 3? The number 4? You don't know any of their names.
I have no idea.
We all know who the other competitors are. So that's my only beef about that kid. The real athletes don't go out and play that sport. You don't, because it's not professional. No reason that they should. And 2, we don't know who they are before or since. Hicks, number 1 for you.
Tiger Woods. He ended the fucking decade with a bang and really dominated. It's hard to say that he won't be on a bunch of top of the list, and he's won a shitload of majors in this last 10 years.
It's a very interesting thing because as we sit here today, it's kind of hard to believe that this thing will go away, and we get like that with most scandals.
Right.
There was a time that I would told you, Dave, no matter what happens, Kobe's not coming back because it just seemed that negative. And I remember we were working in D.C. at the time, and everybody was anti-Kobe every single day. And it's only because of the way I see Kobe coming back that I realize that these scandal things can be beat. If you have time, you can beat any scandal. Fez Whatley, Tiger Woods, athlete of the decade.
No, because the actions of what happened this month prove that for once and for all that golf isn't really a sport.
Well, there's other womanizers out there in every sport and entertainment form.
But Tiger walked away indefinitely from the game. That was his thing. No other athlete could do that. Tom Brady couldn't say, I am indefinitely leaving the game and planning on coming back.
Jordan walked away from the game.
2 years.
And face it, when Brady got hurt, he was out for a year. I don't see Tiger leaving the game for more than a year, tops. I'd be surprised if he's not back in the spring. I think he just wants to say, I can't do the schedule. But how long do you think he'll be away for?
Oh, I think he'll be gone at least a couple of years.
No.
And you have Michael Vick do that, and it's still the question's still out on him.
Not after you've watched last night's game.
He will be back by April for the Masters. Tiger wants this record so badly that he won't.
But what do you say to Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan walked away from the game at his peak, came back, won a couple more. Was it 3 more?
3. He had a 3-peat, retired for 2 years, had another 3-peat. Unbelievable.
And I think if we did this, he was the best of last.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous.
And I don't think, to be totally honest here, that Michael Jordan dominated his sport as much as Tiger dominated golf. Because you've got everybody. It's not you and a bunch of guys competing in golf. You are competing against the entire field. So every time you go out, it's not you against another team. It's you against everybody.
100 guys.
Every single tournament.
Crazy. It is kind of crazy when you think about it like that.
And so when you dominate on that level, it's even kind of more impressive than you're with a team and you got a great coach and Scottie Pippen is there with you and, you know.
And remember that one Masters, I believe it was actually technically in the late 90s, but when he won by like 14 strokes. And it was like, what the
greatest,
fuck?
Yeah.
That's Babe Ruth hitting 60 home runs when the other team, their highest total was 29. He hit more than other teams. That's how ridiculous that was by Tiger. And the guy continued.
What is your beef with Tiger? Not so much what he did, but the sport of golf?
Yeah, basically the sport of golf. I mean, you have old people playing golf. Dave's mom plays golf.
Yeah, but people play flag football, and people, you know what I mean? Like, they're not the ones that Tiger's competing against. Although, in a weird way, it goes back to, yeah, everybody can play golf to some extension, and he's still that greatest thing.
Everyone, though, thinks they can play golf. No offense, Fez, but if you and my mom, who's 70, went on the greens, I think she would probably beat you by 30 strokes. I mean, golf is not as easy as it looks. I know the ball is stationary, but
what do you say to that, Fez?
I say that, you know, that's it. That everybody plays golf.
But the fact that she can beat you, right?
Uh-huh.
What do you think of that?
She gets up routinely under 100.
Because you wouldn't expect her to be able to beat you at basketball or anything else that we could think of.
Then I think it's a game. Then I think it would be like me saying I'm taking an indefinite leave from Monopoly.
Well, no, what I'm saying is she treats that...
I tell you what, you'll be rusty when you come back.
Oh, I know. I won't remember where all the properties are.
But my point was she treats that as a sport. She practices, she gets lessons, she works hard at it. You don't. So if you think it's that easy to do, you should be able to beat an elderly a woman.
What about if he puts up $200 against your mom?
No way.
How many strokes will she give him?
I'd say Beanie could give Fez 10 strokes easy, and I would tell my mom put $1,000 on it.
Okay, but I'll set this up. But Fez gets to go off the ladies' tee.
Okay, they both go off ladies' tees. I'm telling you, he thinks he can play golf.
You think you can beat her?
I think I could beat her.
Oh God! Isn't it a bad move, Buster? She gets under 100. She gets about high 80s, early 90s every time she goes out. I
can tell you this. I've been on the golf course with Watley. I've never seen him get lift. He has never lifted the ball. No, one time when he was putting, he really got under the ball. But at no time off the tee.
No. If you're hitting ground,
we're going by divot size, right?
Do you realize
No,
that?
you don't divot. You hit down into it. I noticed that.
Do you know that the course that she plays at is, 330 to 430-yard holes? So how many strokes do you think it would take you to get into like a 430-yard hole, par 5?
I have no idea what...
How many...
I'll be shocked, because I've been out with him before. I'll be shocked if he can do it in 12.
That's what I meant.
And I'm being totally serious.
I know. That's going to be a high score. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because I know how... Listen, I'm not...
Forget getting the ball there. He 5-putts. Fez is a 5-putter.
I'm bigger. When I played with my mom in Ireland, I had to sweat my ass off to stay. I think she ended up beating me. I think I got like 100, and she got like a 92. And I was like playing my ass. I'm like, fuck, this old lady's going to beat me.
But, going back to the same thing, Fezzy, with everybody plays golf, so it must be easy. How many people do you think on the world can run 100 meters? And yet we have the fastest man in the world.
Right.
That's always impressive to me. Yeah. It's always impressive that I remember being in school thinking like, I'm probably one of the fastest kids here. You know what I mean? Like, and every kid always thinks that. Maybe I'm not the fastest kid in the school, but I'm right in there. That happens. Figure every school over the whole world, and this guy's the fastest.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the purest thing to me. The 100 meters.
That guy's amazing.
Davey Mack, who is your of the decade?
Okay, well, I was really thinking hard about this. Baseball, basketball, football, they all have their own, and Tiger certainly is there. But one more major than Tiger Woods, Mr. Roger Federer, is the most dominant player, and I know not everyone likes tennis, but I believe most people have seen the last few Wimbledons where he's played Nadal, and then this year against Roddick. These Wimbledons are as good as any Ali Frazier fight you ever saw. The guy is and he wins them. And he also dominates, but he also wins the close ones. That to me is a truly and every single one has come this decade. Unlike Tiger, won a couple in the late 90s.
But here's the interesting thing. He could walk through this place and nobody would even know it. He probably has been here. And you're one of the few. But you know what I'm saying? I bet he could walk into the sports stations and they would go like this. Excuse me, we're on the air right now. But if Tiger Woods walked through this hall, people would be like, oh, my God, I saw Tiger Woods today.
But I'm just talking about a pure athlete who
I get you completely.
Dominated, who has performed, and when someone's pushed him, and it's like, okay, Nadal's going to beat you now, he rose.
I'm going to go back and be tougher on you, though, and say the same thing I said to Fez. I don't know if the best athletes play tennis.
I think since the mid-'80s, you have to be in phenomenal shape to be a tennis player. It's very grueling.
No,
these 5-set matches. I mean, have you ever seen a fat tennis player?
No, I agree with you 100%, and they're in great shape. And I don't know whether you know this. I don't think I've ever told you the story. I belonged to a club when I was in Florida, and it had golf and tennis and everything. We got to know all the tennis pros. So a guy had never played baseball before. And I go, oh, you ought to come out with us. We're going to, do a batting practice at a major league spring training thing.
Mm-hmm.
We go out there. He's swinging. He hits 3 over the fence. He hadn't played baseball in his life because his parents made him go through tennis as a kid.
Wow.
The guy probably weighed 150, 160. He hit 3 over in batting practice his first time swinging a bat his entire life.
Wow.
That's how good a swing was.
Unbelievable. Well, he must have had like a 2-hand
And he's
backhand
going like this. He goes, I'm so pissed off I didn't ever play baseball. This is so much fun.
Well,
and he's going, you could just hit it anywhere.
Yeah.
It's great.
But he had to field and throw. Maybe he didn't do those things well.
He wasn't allowed to play.
Right.
He just had no idea what baseball was. So his only thing was he goes to batting practice and starts to swing.
That's amazing.
All right, so let's go over this. You got...
And again, Federer won 15, Tigers won 14.
Yeah.
So
I had Kobe down as mine. You had Federer. Fez, you had...
Michael Phelps.
Hicks.
Woods.
And, of course, I guess, did anybody want to throw in a Tom Brady?
Yeah, we can throw in Tom Brady. But the problem with that is that Peyton, his numbers and the fact that he's gotten a ring have been so awesome. I think Peyton might be the better quarterback, and Brady's played in the better system.
All right, let's do this very, very quickly then. If you could only start your new team, you get the quarterback. Who do you want right now, Fez? You get first pick.
Peyton Manning.
Hicks?
Brady.
I'm with Fez, Peyton. I'm a Manning family type of guy. Not just because Eli's on the Giants, but I've always admired the way Peyton can... He is able to discern what's happening on defense.
And I'm going to pick Brady, so we don't have enough. So we throw out both of them. There's no football in this.
So that means Roethlisberger wins.
Does anybody... Oh, poor Roethlisberger. I'll be lucky if he makes it through the decade. Does anybody want to change their vote here?
I don't.
No, I like my Federer pick because I really thought about this hard.
I'm going to change my pick then.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick and back up Hicks with Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods wins our athlete of the thing. And here's the other part of it. The pressure on this guy right now, compared with all these other athletes. I mean, who knows if Federer is married? Who knows who's Federer slept with?
Unattractive, like a very surprisingly unattractive woman.
By the way, that's also why I give extra points to Tom Brady. All right, let's turn around. Who is your coach of the decade, Fuzzy? That's how we are going to sum up what is happening out here. Fez Watley, coach of the decade.
Give it to Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick.
Yep, give it to Bill Belichick and his Patriots.
And you're not even a guy that likes Belichick.
No, I am not a fan.
Don't like him as a person.
I don't even like him as a dresser. I think he's a mess.
There's no one in that league that can dress. That's the sad thing about it. Take the... you take anybody in that... it's almost like winning prettiest hockey player. It's just the best dressed football coach doesn't work for you. Hicks, who is the coach of the decade?
I'm backing up Fez, Belichick.
Belichick. Well, this one could go all the way around. Davey Mack, coach of the decade.
I'm going to shock you here, okay? Because no one's going to bring up the basketball guys. Apparently I have to. Phil Jackson went to 6 titles, and I also mentioned the Spurs. Greg Popovich is quietly one of the greatest coaches in the history of sports. However, you get, after 86 years, a championship for this team that's been cursed, and then 3 years later win another championship. Mr. Terry Francona of the Boston Red Sox did more, won multiple championships, did more for the city of Boston than even the great Bill Belichick.
Wow, that you do shock me. You're Mr. Boston.
I'm not Mr. Bob. I'm a Yankee fan, but I have to step back. This is a serious sports show we're doing today. And if I step back, I say Terry Francona had the best decade of all the coaches.
All right, so it'll be up to me to pick. How many was that?
1.5.
Okay.
They have the Belichicks, and I got Terry Francona.
All right, so there's no way, because I'm going to have to look at this by how many championships won in this decade.
Okay.
How many championships won all time.
Okay.
And, of course, once again, dressing.
Okay.
And if you're going to play that game, you got to go Sacred Hoops, Phil Jackson, lock it up, not even worth discussing. And if I was the New York Knickerbockers, I would be begging that man to come to New York, and the players would follow him.
I tell you what, that's brilliant. If you want LeBron, that's how you get him.
That's how you get him.
And coaches' salaries don't fit into the salary cap.
All right, that is the sports wrap-up, sports of the decade. Merry Christmas, everybody. And coming up next, we're going to give you a Christmas special for all the children to get involved in. It's our own Sleeves, Fez.
Sleeves, it's his Christmas special, and that is coming up next right here on The Ron and Fez Show.